Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Iron Port. This program is proudly brought to you by Serene Insurance, Ball Company Limited, the Ghana Revenue Authority, Ghana Link, who are the operators of the Integrated Customs Management System, and Meridian Port Services. This show is also powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Our proud media partner is the Business and Financial Times. This week we are discussing emerging technologies to support green transition of the maritime sector. And the world celebrated the World Maritime Day on the 29th of September 2022. And the theme was actually centered on new technologies as well as greener shipping. So Iron Port engaged some experts in the studios to discuss this particular subject. Let's take a listen.
In the latest edition of Iron Port's live interactive session, professionals within Ghana's shipping and maritime industry examine the role of emerging technologies to support the green transition of the maritime sector. Iron Port interacted with Captain Samuel Ofori-Dankwa, a senior marine officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Dr. Captain Nana Ofosu-Boateng, the head of Nautical Studies Department at the Regional Maritime University, and Lieutenant Commander Christopher Armour, who jointly expressed support for the green transitioning of the industry.
With activities that affect our oceans, we have the carriage of goods. That's what I mentioned earlier on, from one country to another. And some of these goods are chemicals. We have liquefied gases and other noxious liquid substances that are carried on our oceans. And we also have oil extraction that is going on. Is the same ships that carry the oil from the oil fields to the refineries for them to be refined. After refinery, these products are also transported from these countries to other countries that need these lubricants and all these oil products. Also, we have fishing that is going on. We have minerals extraction, and there are paints and then chemicals that are used on board and for maintenance of the ships. So you realize that all these chemicals and all these products that I am mentioning, if they are not properly handled, they are going to pollute the marine environment. Even just the movement of the ship on the water, we have issues with underwater noise, which affects the mammals. For example, the whales use sound to travel. So when you have ships that are traveling on our oceans with the propellers rotating underwater, it distracts their living conditions under the water. Also, a typical example of oil pollution is the Exxon Valdez, which happened in Mexico. That was one of the devastating oil spills, and after 30 years, we still have pockets of some of these crude oil remaining in some areas, which caused the death of hundreds of millions of animals in the oceans. And so it's how critical it is for us to act as a unified global community as well, to find solutions to these negative effects from the maritime industry, to allow the shipping industry to continue serving its purpose for the development of countries and economies all over the world.
But the biodiversity, we need to preserve that. And in preserving our biodiversity, we have to make sure that nothing goes into the sea to go and damage the life below the sea. So for him, like I said, as he was talking about, the main concern is about the air pollution, which damages a lot of the ozone, and that is what is causing most of the glaciers in the icy areas to melt. And once they melt, the sea surface will rise. And once the sea surface rises beyond certain limits, islands will sink, and some of the places will go down. If you pass through our local area in Ghana here, Sakomono Beach and the rest, before you could see most of the structures were way forward, but now they've been covered, not to think about the island somewhere. So if we are not regulating and getting everybody involved, making people understand that this is the only thing we have, all must come in, then we are going to just cause the damage very soon.
The International Maritime Organization and its member states have set themselves an ambitious goal of reducing shipping emissions by at least 50% by the year 2050. All over the world, shipping companies and shipping service providers are preoccupied with reducing greenhouse gas emissions and shipping generated pollutants to protect the long-term future for human and aquatic life.
In trying to curtail the amount of sulfur dioxide that we have and the nitrous oxide that we have, we could introduce technologies like sulfur scrubbers, where it is put in the exhaust to eliminate more than about 90% of the sulfur content that is churned out into the atmosphere.
Right.
We could also harness the heat that is coming from the exhaust system, such that there is recirculation, and that energy which is coming from the heat could also be used by the vessel.
Right.
We could also harness the propellers, right, by making sure that the blades are oriented properly and that they are more energy efficient when it cuts through the water. We could also look at the ballast system. You know, in other waters where people introduce alien species into the water, and that causes a lot of problems. New technologies are coming in where you are having ballast-less vessels where there's no ballast, but actually there are special tanks that are within there that's all of the ballast and such that there's a continuous flow of water going in, so you don't need to actually keep water from a localized place by filling your tanks in one port and discharging it in another one. So it's more like that place is empty and there's a continuous stream of water passing through in there. And then also other technologies, we could be looking at sails. There's been some experiments using sails, which used to be the very old system that we're using, but adding a bit of technology to it such that the direction of the wind could be computer controlled, such that you could orient the sails in a way to catch more wind and maximum effect of the wind to use. We could also be looking at electricity, electrical engines, where they are quieter and cleaner. We could also be looking at LNG, which could also produce very little carbon footprint.
Most of them are now going on methanol. And I can talk about a classical situation whereby Maersk Line has started for the past 5 years, since 2015. And they have about 15 ships that are running on that, and it's safe and environmentally safe. So they normally call it triple E.
Right.
The triple E, it means they are trying to, I would say, work on the environment. They are trying to work on the economy of scale, and at the same time also they are working on the fuel efficiency. So with that triple E, at one ship that they have, before I think the largest ship was 18,000 TEU. Right. And now they have 24,000 TEU, which is evergreen. Maersk Line was having the 18,000. What they did was they increased the width of the ship, and then they just moved the accommodation a bit behind so that it can get closer and more cargo space. So they were able to increase the cargo by 15%. And doing so, when they compare the cargo carriage capacity together with the fuel that was supposed to burn, they were able to achieve almost about 50% of fuel reduction.
While it can be acknowledged that Africans lack the wherewithal of their global counterparts, the experts believe there is much Africa can do to contribute to the green agenda.
I think the first thing we'd have to do as African ports is to kind of come together. We can't be a standalone or do it alone. Stakeholders should be engaged more thoroughly. And also there should be a point where the stakeholders could be brought to a point that they would be willing to at least put something in, to start from somewhere. Of course, not all the countries are very stable economically. So going forward, it's going to be a little slow. Some countries could do it quite quicker, but others might be falling behind. So looking at it, it should be a collective thing. It should be collective.
When you look at some statistics, you realize that majority of port calls and bunker sales, that is fueling of ships, takes place in developing countries. And developing countries as well, they are dominant in supplying seafarers and then ship registration. So I believe that what the African ports can learn is to look at, for example, the port of Antwerp, where they use circular economy. And circular economy is trying as much as possible to recycle the waste that is generated from the ports and from the ships. And they are used to generate energy or power as well to electrify the ports. so that we will try as much as possible to reduce our dependency of the ports on the national grid, which could also, that power as well can be used to serve other places within the country. So the other aspect also is to look at research into biofuels, which have hydrogen and it's available everywhere. Some statistics from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations indicates that there are 124 countries which produce sugar. So it means that if we want to go into biofuels, it is possible. And it is a good time for us to invest. And I believe that our return on investment will be very profitable if we should start something now. And for consolidation between the African countries, it is very, very important for us to look at what are our weaknesses and what are our strengths. It shouldn't be a competition to try as much as possible to make some revenue from this particular opportunity. But I think coming together in terms of looking at how we are going to do our training, how we are going to do our research, how we are going to look at into manufacturing and the production of all these fuels is going to help us together as an African continent.
According to the industry professionals, attitude is key when it comes to Africa's approach to sustainable shipping.
For instance, you get to most of the ports and instead of inspecting, they are taking money.
Yeah.
You get to other places where seafarers are supposed to do what by not throwing any garbage overboard. They look, and African terrain, there are no cameras, there are nothing. You go to China, Singapore, they have these gadgets that are monitoring 24/7. So even nighttime, when you throw even a small amount of something in the sea, they're able to get you pictures once you arrive at the port.
Right.
But these seafarers are aware that we are handicapped in this area, so they do it within our waters. Just like Lieutenant Commander said, why are they doing a lot of bunkering on our waters within the African terrain? Because nobody is checking them.
I think that basically we should also be looking at the maritime education and training aspect, because it's all about a mindset. If the person's mindset is positive and it's okay, why would somebody put garbage which is not treated into the oceans? Or why would somebody pour oily waste into the water? Where I stand, at the moment, if you are a rating and before you should ever join a vessel, you need to do a pre-sea vocational training where you are taken through the rudiments of seamanship and some of these things with regards to pollution and everything. So at least the conscience is, the awareness is there before you go on board. It's not as if from the very, very old days where anybody could just obtain a discharge book and go on board and call himself a seafarer. It's not like that anymore. So the awareness slowly is coming through maritime education and training.
While there were calls for increased investment into its work, the Ghana Maritime Authority were praised for their efforts in recent years for policing the nation's waters and implementing international protocols intended to promote sustainable shipping.
Iron Port returns after this break.
Every now and again, GOIL makes good things happen. This time, GOIL has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with GOIL Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. GOIL has that sorted. GOIL, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water, or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
Mps Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
You welcome back from the break. Now news and activities happening within the port and maritime industry next.
The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje, has reassured the business community of Burkina Faso of the authority's unwavering commitment to continue to make Ghana's ports and corridors the preferred option for transit trade. The GPHA boss made the authority's intentions known when a delegation from the Burkina Faso Chamber of Commerce, led by its president, Mahamadi Savodogo, paid a working visit to the Port Authority to explore ways to enhance the business relationship the two parties share in the transit trade. The delegation made a few concerns known, such as port tariffs, the payment of VAT on transit goods charged by the GRA, and the harmonization of shipping line charges, among others. The DG of GPHA explained how the Port Authority is working closely with the government of Ghana to arrive at mutually beneficial solutions.
The Port Authority and the Ghana Shippers Authority and our Ministry of Transport, we've been discussing this matter to see what arrangement can be in place to regulate the shipping lines and their charges.
He called for increased collaboration between his outfit and the economic operators of Burkina Faso in research and information sharing towards the improvement of services for the transit business. Earlier, members of the Burkina Faso Chamber of Commerce and Industry had held a partners dinner as part of its 5-day economic and trade promotion event in Accra. The just ended 5-day trade fair sought to promote economic, commercial, and cultural potentials, as well as strengthen cooperation between Burkina Faso and Ghana. The partners' dinner was to celebrate and magnify the historic relationship between the Burkina Faso Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Ghana and its partners. There, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority seized the opportunity to award some of its transit trade partners for their loyalty to Ghana's ports. The president of Regional Consular Delegation of Obasan of the BFCCI, Al-Hassan Seinu, said the Burkina Faso private sector, through the Chamber of Commerce, has an ambitious program for the next 5 years, which includes the implementation of major projects to support the socio-economic development of their country.
Votre présence est le témoignage de l'excellence des partenariats établis depuis des décennies.
The dynamic is to be able to strengthen our business links. Therefore, we plan to pursue exchanges with you in order to establish a win-win partnership between your respective countries and Burkina Faso.
On his part, the Director General of GPHA, Michael Lugoje, reiterated GPHA's objective for the transit trade.
I want to use this opportunity to just assure Burkina Faso business community and shippers, together with our partners, Ghana Shippers Authority, and all the other public and private enterprises that are working in Ghana to facilitate Burkina Faso transit trade through our ports.
The Joint Association of Port Transport Unions, JAPTU Ghana, has entered into an agreement with Road Safety Management Services Limited to roll out the mandatory truck towing program. Stakeholders within the maritime, trade and road transport sectors assembled at a signing ceremony in Tema on Thursday, September 29, 2022 to mark the commencement of the program. The program will see all truck owners benefit from truck towing and salvage services nationwide at an annual premium of 450 cedis. This agreement is expected to solve some of Ghana's road safety challenges. One of such is the abandonment of trucks in the middle of highways and shoulders of roads, leading to the risk of motor accidents and road congestions. The agreement will also relieve truck owners from the tedious process of securing an efficient, competent truck towing service provider and its associated costs. For the maritime trade, efficient and competent towing services will mean shortened turnaround time for the delivery of cargo on land.
What is even very exciting about this agreement is the fact that the Road Safety Management Services has to react to our requests within prescribed times. For example, if you are in a regional capital or a district capital, once you make a call to the call center, which is toll-free, within an hour, they have to come and tow you to safety.
We have put a contingency plan, an operational plan, very efficient one, locating accident-prone areas where vehicles often break down, and other operational and strategic areas to be able to meet our demand in terms of coming in less than an hour's time.
The safety of all is paramount. For this reason, we are thankful and really appreciative that JAPTU has taken the initiative to join with these other stakeholders, the toll services and the police, to come up with such a positive initiative that will give peace of mind to the drivers, peace of mind to the truck owners, and peace of mind to the road users, so that business can go on.
The Tema Shipyard has recently proven it remains committed to delivering efficient, world-class ship repair and maintenance services at its facility. This commitment was demonstrated when the shipyard was able to turn around Ship Didi, an oil chemical tanker, 3 days ahead of its 10-day target, enabling a timely return to sea of the vessel. The tanker, sailing under the flag of Nigeria, with a length of 176 meters and carrying capacity of 40,219 deadweight tonnage, called the Tema Shipyard for general dry dock services such as welding works, sandblasting and painting, the overhaul of the main suction and overboard valves, among others.
I want to assure our customers that Tema Shipyard is still committed to quality. Even though the yard has been in existence for years and our equipment seems to be a bit outmoded, but the customers themselves can attest to the fact that we give out quality work.
The Tema Shipyard is certified. We are simply trying to say that when you bring in your vessel here to the Tema Shipyard, you are sure to receive services that are internationally accepted. So our business processes and then our work instructions and other documentations that sum up to the ISO is simply structured in a way that your vessel would be well attended to.
I again entreat all our customers and our clients to come to Shipyard, because as we have moved from the previous standard that we used to, now we are in ISO.
Chief Engineer Samuel Kwesi Amoakon, Technical Superintendent of another vessel, MV Manye, that called the dry dock, praised the services at the Tema Shipyard and called for further investment to help the shipyard reach its full potential.
I'm expecting the dock to do a very good job for us. So far, what they've been doing is quite encouraging. Their men are abreast with time, and they are working according to the timeline we have given to them.
It's now time for international port and maritime news.
Mediterranean Shipping Company, the world's largest container line, will expand into air cargo using 4 leased Boeing wide-body freighters after missing out in a bid for Italy's flag carrier airline. The new business will be led by Gianni Davao a former managing director of cargo at Delta Airlines Incorporated, who has also worked at Emirates and DHL, with a 777-200 FS to be provided by Atlas Air, which will fly them on MSC's behalf. The Swiss firm joins French rival CMA CGM SA in establishing an in-house air freight fleet. CMA began flying cargo jets in 2021 and in May, swollen with profits generated during the coronavirus pandemic, agreed an alliance with Air France KLM that included a stake of as much as 9% in the debt-laden airline. AP Moller Maersk AS also agreed in 2021 to lease 3 Boeing 767 freighters and purchase 2 new 777 FS to be operated and managed by cargo specialist Star Air. Still, the news from MSC comes as container shippers confront a downturn as weaker demand pushes prices to their lowest in more than 2 years.
Schedules of vessels in the port, those at anchorage and those expected in the coming week, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rate you need to know to clear your goods from the port next. It's now time for the word of the day.
To moor is to attach a ship to the shore by ropes.
We have your comments next.
This one is from Eben from Tamale. He says, the only way we can do away with the mess is to educate ourselves as Africans and Ghanaians to know the negative impact of all these shipping related activities on ourselves and the environment, because it is through education that will make us appreciate the issues, else we will not be able to curtail it. Thank you for your contribution, Eben. This one is from Engineer George in Takwa. He says, in my opinion, we should start looking into the type of fuel we use in the vessel and possibly explore ways of adding substances that can minimize the toxins when introduced into the atmosphere. Thank you, Engineer George, for the submission.
This is where we draw the curtain on this week's episode of Iron Port. Thank you for watching and join us same time next week.